Thank you. Absolutely. I want to know what LATCO is about, and I know that the Baton Rouge area is also interested in all the new things that are happening. So first, do some introductions about who you are and kind of your background story, and then we'll go from there. So, Betty, take us away.
Me first. Cool. Save the best for first.
She wasn't like this before you turned the mic on.
I was self-pronounced exhausted, and then this mic got here, and I was like, oh, so you want me to do a show? Anyways, my name is Betty Mujica Milano. I'm one of the co-founders of LATCO Comedy here in Baton Rouge. I've been doing improv, I guess, almost like 6 years now, pretty consistently. I discovered improv in high school. I went to boarding school. I had a RA who started an improv group, so I got to do it for a couple years in high school, but then went to college, and there was kind of nothing that existed, but I rediscovered it again when I lived in Houston a couple years ago, and yeah, I love performing. I love teaching. That's something that I've really gotten into in the last couple of years, is teaching improv. And yeah, when I moved back to Baton Rouge 4 years ago, I kind of was looking for my people, my tribe, my activities, as I used to call them. I was like, I'm a person who needs to fill their time a lot. Like, I don't like just sitting around. I like to be active and be doing things. And so when I moved back, a friend introduced me to TC, and he was doing improv in a practice room in Whole Foods, famously in the community room, and joined up with them, and it's kind of been growing ever since.
Yeah. Wow. So wait, so Whole Foods has a community room?
Yes, and it is, let's say it with me, small.
How small?
It was meant originally for, they call it a community room. It's like they would do like cooking classes and stuff, so we were improvising around like a stove and dishwasher.
If I have to give you a square footage on this room, it was probably 500 square feet with a big island counter space with like a sink and stuff, which then cut into our space, so maybe we were performing as a group maybe in 400 square feet of space overlooking Whole Foods shoppers. So I could always see the meat section, and I was always wanting to eat barbecue. I feel like I always was like, man, today's the day I'm gonna go get a rib.
Should get one rib.
a single
rib.
Every once in a while, because we would forget we were in the upstairs room at Whole Foods, and we would be screaming or doing something wild, and people would be looking up like,
shoppers would be like, what is going on up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm TC Mathern. Yeah, I am a Baton Rouge native as well. Bet and I are similar in the way of I didn't really have improv necessarily growing up. I actually found it a little later than Betty, I think. I was studying psychology at LSU, and I was in my senior year. And I was one of those kids that didn't really like anything. I tried everything and didn't really like anything. I played all the sports, didn't like anything, and never had my thing, And my senior year, during winter break, I went up to Chicago to visit an uncle, and he bought me a ticket to an improv show. And I saw it, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is it, So 6 months later, I graduated and immediately got in a U-Haul, moved up to Chicago. I was there for like 5 years. And then because of some family situation, I moved back home, which at the time was tough, but it was one of those things where it was definitely like a blessing in disguise.
Right.
Because I would pout for a while, and I'd be like, and people were like, start doing improv,
Yeah.
And so I started teaching in the community room, and after about 6 months of that, I think, and that's when Betty came into the picture, and that's when things really started to blow up. And that was 4 years ago now.
Yeah. Yep. We've been doing it 4 years.
Yep.
Okay, so the community room in Whole Foods was the place that y'all did it up until recently when you've gotten your own place.
No.
Or was there a transition?
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, you ready for the roller coaster ride I'm about to take you on? So we were in the community room at Whole Foods for probably practicing there for probably a year and a half.
Yeah.
And kind of through that time, it was kind of a rotating cast of characters. Like, we had people who joined in, moved away. We had people who did it at the beginning and came back at the end. And then in October of 2016, so I came back here around June, July 2016. October of 2016, we had our first performance. So when I joined the group, it was purely a practice group. There was kind of no end goal of like what they were doing up there. They were just meeting once a week, and TC was teaching everyone how to improvise, and so I joined up, and I was excited to join up, but kind of quickly was like, anybody want to perform, or no, we're just gonna keep being over here, so that's when we kind of started getting performances together. So performances started October of 2016 at Spanish Moon, and then we did performances at Spanish Moon for a year, or a little less than a year maybe, and then kept practicing in the community room at Whole Foods. And then I think somewhere in that mix, we were still practicing in the community room when we moved over to Driftwood, Cask and Barrel, which is now Squeaky Pete's.
I know where Driftwood is.
Yeah. So we moved over to Driftwood, and we did shows there for about a year. And during that time, that's when we transitioned away from the community room of Whole Foods. Maybe we had overstayed our welcome.
I think we were politely asked to leave. Enough customers were like, I'm hearing yelling from above.
And they were like, that's not what this room is for people to like yell.
But we're grateful for the time we had.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're so grateful for our time there. And so many of our performers are former or current Whole Foods employees.
Yeah,
it's most of our community at this point. But then that's when we started moving towards teaching classes. So that's we taught our first round of classes at the Arts Council in July of 2018, and then moved practices to everyone's house. So practices at Michael's house, our other partner, my house, and all that kind of stuff. But as you can see, we've been literally all over the map. If there's a venue in Baton Rouge, we've rented it for something. Right. We've done stuff at the Guru. We've done classes and performances there. And then the last 2 years, we've been really lucky to be at Phil Brady's, doing our shows there consistently for the last 2 years. And I think for us, that was a great partnership, because they really gave us a lot of freedom. Not to just do one night a month, but to expand out to 2 nights a month, and even do nights, like weekend shows in the evening and things like that. And we're pretty supportive of what we were trying to do in the community. And I think finally we had a space where it felt like we could develop a following and an audience, over that time. And so, so performances kind of ended up at Phil Brady's, and then classes kind of all over the map. And that was at the end of 2019. That's kind of where we stood, kind of not with a 100% positive outlook of like what was next, like not knowing we'd be in the position we're in now. Right. The position we're in now came about pretty quickly. Very quickly. Yeah, every year I feel like, because it was a lot renting places and figuring out logistics. And every year we would ask ourselves, is this the year that we get a space? Is this the year? So we've been asking ourselves that question for 4 years now. Yeah. Okay. And then this was literally about 2 months ago, I guess. Less than 2 months ago, we were like, okay, let's do it. Now we crunched the numbers and we were like, I think we can do it,
So what made you finally, I mean, you've been saying this for 4 years, what made you finally be like, okay, this is it, let's pull the trigger and do it? Yeah.
So it was I'm not going to lie, it was a scary thing for us to do. We've sat down a bunch and like I said, crunched the numbers. So we're fortunate enough that all the money we've taken made from Latco or performing improv, no one's wanted any piece. So we put it all in one bank account and just saved it. So none of us have made any money off of Latco. Right. It's all for the space. So we had a pretty nice little nest egg there. And we looked at that, and then the amount of people that wanted to take classes, we found incredible. At first, we were like, I'm always the pessimist, and Betty's always the optimist. Luckily,
you need the balance.
We need the balance, yeah. But I was shocked when people were like, "We sell out all our classes." It's difficult to keep them. They stay full. Yeah. And so that was another factor. But the main thing, and Betty may want to tell the story, there was a night we were standing outside the place that we're leasing now. We were standing outside of it, and we looked at it, and we were like, you know what? No, we're not going to do it. Fear kind of took over, and we were like, this is not right. We're out. And then the next night we had a show.
Yeah, we had So to back up a little bit too, over the last 4 years, like TC is an amazing performer, an amazing teacher. Like I always say, like, he's like our charismatic leader, but like not a cult.
This is not a cult, nor do we support cults.
We don't support cults, and it's not a cult. It is a great community though, and TC, came to Baton Rouge and really planted the seed of that community, and people love him, and it stands to reason why he's adorable, great, love him. And I think I came in luckily with the experience I have, like I was telling you before, in nonprofit fundraising, event planning, a lot of logistical, very, I'm not type A per se, 'cause I'm not like that organized, but I'm pretty business minded, and like thinking about how with anything you do in your life, it's all about sustainable growth, and it's about like making the steps at the right time. Like even you were saying about how you and your wife decided to purchase your house, like that's exactly how me and my husband did it, right? It's like you have to think about what time is right. Like I'm not going to go into buying a house during my busiest time, tax season. That's crazy, truly, because buying a house is crazy, and then you get in it, and then everything needs to be fixed. And so I've always brought that perspective to everything we've done in Latco. It's like making the steps and the strides to do everything in a way that's sustainable and doing everything in its own time. And so end of the year, it felt like right. We talked about it a long time. We were literally about to sign. We were like, had the lease being prepared for us, and then we all got scared, and we were standing outside that space, and we were all scared. But then we did the show. We had 3 shows this past December, and we did the first show, it was December 8th, and TC wasn't even there. It was me and Michael, and Michael Moss is our third partner, who I've kind of mentioned, but I want to give him a shout out. He is teaching tonight, but our third member, and he really is our tech guy. He does all of our lights, all of our sound, like our real kind of performance, our producer in a lot of ways. So we did the show, and I host most of our shows, or I've hosted a lot of our shows, and I'm a little blabbermouth, and it's so hard for me to keep my mouth shut. So I just kind of mentioned on stage like the prospect of us opening a space in 2020, and just kind of for the first time let people know that we were thinking about getting our own space. And it was just like insane, like the energy in the room just changed. Like people were, I think it was like something they didn't know could even be possible yet, or maybe ever. Like, and a lot of things in Baton Rouge, like they hit a peak, and people don't take that next step, and then they fizzle out. And so I think a lot of people honestly probably expected maybe that to happen to us at a certain point, like grow too big and not be ready to take that next step. So I think when we said the thing about the space, the energy in the room just lifted. And I'm also a really like vibey, woo-woo energy person. So to me, I'm very like, I trust my gut 100%. And when my gut says go, like I'm very down to do what it's saying. And so I left the show. People gave me money that night. They just handed me cash. I said, okay, you want to give me money?
Well, and Betty called me after that show, and I can even just hear in the tone of her voice, it made me confident. She was like, TC, I just need you to believe me, this is something we have to do. And right then, all my fear dropped away just by how confident she was. And after that, from then on, we were like, well, this is something we're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's, Betty, I think you summed it up perfectly. It's, especially in Baton Rouge, I found that people, they get to that point where like, oh, we could do this, we could do that if we take this next step, and then fear just hits them like
Which
a brick
is
wall.
such an interesting thing that improv has folded into this next step we're taking, because I can literally tell you how improv would help anybody, anywhere, at any time. But for us in improv, we're constantly taking a leap of faith, stepping on stage and trusting our scene partners, or our business partners in this case, trusting that we're going to step out there knowing not what we're going to do, but knowing that it's going to be okay because we have each other's backs. And we took that into this venture as well, and it's only been beneficial for us.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, again, it's like kind of just trusting just the way things have been over the last 4 years. It's hard not to feel like there's somebody on our side, whoever that is, God, whoever, the universe, I usually say. But like, that TC came back to Baton Rouge when he did, and then I came back to Baton Rouge when I did, and Michael was consistent in being part of the group and really showing up to like take responsibility for a lot of things. And it was really like one of those things where like the 3 of us, I don't think 4 years ago knew that the 3 of us would be the 3 people who would be pushing Latco forward. But it's like the way things shake out when you wait long enough and you dig into things long enough, like you see the way they're meant to be. and we're lucky that we're a 3-person. That's not a partnership because as a partner imply pairs.
I think anybody, everyone, you can have as many partners as you
a trio,
want.
Right.
let's say. But 3 people who care about not just about having a business, because like TC said, we haven't made any money off of this.
We don't make any money.
We don't make any money off this. We still got full-time jobs. We out here,
Well, and Betty put it in a good way, because money would be great. That's fantastic. But none of us, that's not our first motivator in building this. I think Betty had I quote her all the time because I love the way she put it. She says that we're building a community garden, and we're just the gardeners.
Right.
Right.
I think going in with that mentality almost makes the business succeed even more, if you want to label it as a business. But having the mentality of, we're going to do it because we love it. We're going to do it because we truly think we can make an impact in the community. We can help people. And in Baton Rouge, there was nothing before this, to at least to the best of my knowledge, outside of what y'all have been doing for the last 4 years. Yeah. And so being like, hey, there's a scene, there's an environment that we want to create in Baton Rouge, but we're not doing it for money. We're doing it just to have it.
Yeah.
I think that is so much more powerful than going in and saying, hey, let's open up a comedy club and let's start charging heads to get in from the door. Well, you still could be very successful with it. It's you want to do it more because you're not driven by the dollar.
Right. Well, no, that's 100% it. And I think, companies have mission statements and they have, whatever their value propositions or whatever for the reasons that they do things, and I think in some companies or in some organizations, you feel the honesty and the truth of what they're saying and you believe that, and some you don't. Some you really don't. And the thing that we're so lucky to have is that, again, the 3 of us are bringing that energy of we just love it so much that we want everyone else to have what we got when we first discovered it. And when you walk into our spaces, into our classes, I've never had anybody deny that the feeling is a feeling of community. It's a feeling of support. It's a lot of people who come thinking they're going to learn how to be funny, and then they actually end up discovering a lot more about themselves, about vulnerability, about meeting new people that they would have never ever talked to before. Because that's another great thing about our classes and about our community, even just our audience, it ranges. We've got, we've taught workshops with kids as young as 15, 16. Our oldest students and performers, they're in their, we have people in their 60s. I'm still fingers crossed for a 70 or an 80-year-old to come through my door, because it's never too late to start if you have an open mind to learning anyways. So we just have everybody come through our doors, and we're able to offer them a really unique kind of eye-opening experience, something that really, I think, impacts their life in a bigger way than they usually ever expect.
Right. It's so true with improv, is you're not necessarily trying to be funny all the time. It's you're building that skill to think on your feet, to assess the situation, say, okay, how can I provide value to this situation in a comedic respect, but also in a serious respect. Like you said, you're dressed up in business attire today, looking like the business in TC's and the plaid. Looks like he's been working at the shop today. And it's you come in, you're like, okay, how can you transition what you learn in comedy and improv into your job? And I'm sure with building the building, unless you've got some construction background, you're improving the whole way as you build it,
the whole way,
for better or worse. And so I want to kind of get into some more logistics of Latco, the name itself. Is there a story behind the name, or is it just you threw a bunch of stuff in a hat?
Yeah, this is me.
And you came up with that?
I even want to hear the story myself.
So when I moved back, like I said, it was kind of under semi-forced circumstances, and I wasn't in the best place mentally. It felt like, even though it was a blessing in disguise, it kind of felt like a step backwards for me. And so I was reading a lot of philosophy, and I'm an avid reader, and I read somewhere that Benjamin Franklin had a club whenever he was around, and it was a place where people could come. They'd come to his house, they'd smoke cigars, and they'd drink, and they would discuss everything from politics to philosophy to what it's like to really love a human being, or the funny situation you saw at the market the other day. And it was called the Leather Apron Club, and that felt like something I wanted from a theater or from a group, because that's all those things is what it felt like. of all the places I was at in Chicago, it wasn't just the place I'd go to perform. It was the place I'd go when I was heartbroken, or when I needed someone to support me, or when I needed to discuss, like, what is the deal with traffic, you know, whatever it is, you know what I mean? And so that's what I wanted. So I called it the Leather Apron Theatre Company, and that's what LATCO stands for. So and so it was just a mouthful, so we shortened it, and now it's just LATCO Comedy. Over time. But that's kind of where the name stems from.
I like it.
Yeah, that was good. I feel like I knew the mini version of it, but I didn't know the full scale version.
Well, and then the llama too.
That's what I was just about.
Oh, you were about to say that.
Get him with it.
The llama. We were looking for branding and stuff of like, a logo, and especially once Betty came around, she's such a good motivator to get things done, that we were like, well, let's grow, let's get bigger, and a logo was something that we had thought about. And one of our good friends that's a part of LATCO, and helps out with a lot of things, he's also a graphic designer, Alex Biglane. He and I sat down together looking for a logo, and we couldn't find anything. We were working on this, and nothing was really working. And then for some reason he was just clicking through pictures on his computer, and a llama was there. And it wasn't like he stopped, but I go, wait, go back. And I saw it, and I was like, a llama is the most, they're
comedy animal.
So silly, right? They look so silly, but also so regal.
And they talk, they yell, they scream.
They scream,
and
so
we
it's like...
scream a lot.
We scream a lot, yeah. But it just seemed like the most complex creature of, like, they can, like, turn their nose and be better than you, but also look so dumb. You know?
Yeah.
And so as soon as I saw it, I was like, well, that's the thing. And so Alex drafted a logo for us, and it's iconic.
Yeah, it is actually truly iconic.
Yeah.
I do believe, because it's like the good thing again about the three of us and the partnership, it's like some people have taken things and run with it, and like I had nothing to do with the name, I had nothing to do with the logo, but it's like I fully accept the name and the logo as my own. Like it just feels so, like, especially when they came and did the vinyl on the storefront, when I see it I'm like, oh, that's us.
Yeah.
Like, it's so, you know, when like you just see something and you're like, oh, that does represent kind of us.
Yeah.
And Alex did such an amazing job with that logo. I think it's so kooky and really graphic. The llama's like giving full side-eye drama. It's great.
It is beautiful. I'm really proud and happy with that logo.
Yeah, I love it. It captures what y'all are trying to go out in an animal itself.
Yeah, 100%.
So you see it, and that's... I think with a lot of brands, they try to find that iconic image or that iconic logo. You know, like Nike, when you see a check or a swoosh, as they patented or whatever, you're like, oh, that's Nike. You know, you see like the towers, oh, that's Adidas. You know, so on and so forth. With y'all, it's like, oh, the llama, that's LATCO.
Exactly. And again, and I want to kind of go back to something that you said, because I want to give these guys credit. You know, we've been doing what we've been doing here for 4 years, but Family Dinner, I mean, is the OG improv group of Baton Rouge. They do something slightly different than us, because they do short form improv and we do long form improv. But they've been in Baton Rouge. They've been working together for like 10 years. You know, and we work with them and do stuff with them. But I do even think like this idea of us having the space, it's still this more overarching umbrella of like a home for comedy in Baton Rouge. And, you know, to your point, not the Funny Bone, not AAA Comedy Club, but like an actual home for performers and a community home for people to come through and learn, but also like enjoy performances. And yeah, I just feel like it's like a beacon now where it sits. I just feel like so many... I was getting my hair cut the other day, and I was talking about it, and the guy who... The barber behind me was like, oh yeah, I saw that by a radio bar. I was like, yeah, that's mine.
Okay, so you said something short form versus long form improv. Can you explain the difference between the two?
Yeah, the difference is very subtle, but if you watch, you're like, oh, this is different, right? So long form, or short form rather, what Family Dinner does, it's so funny and so good, and people think, like, I'm a good long form performer. Short form, I'm not great at. You know, it takes a very quick-witted individual, very smart. It's more shorter games. Whose line is it anyway? If you've ever seen that, that's short form. That's all short form. And those people are brilliant improvisers. What we do is long form, and it's difficult to explain. You kind of have to go. So come see a show for sure. But that being said, it's almost the best way I describe it is it's like watching a play, but there's no script.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's an unscripted play, and kind of even going back to what you said about teaching how to be funny. What I say is we pray to the gods of art and hope the gods of comedy show up too. You know what I mean? So it's like we don't teach you how to be funny. We teach you how to listen. We teach you how to react. We teach you how to empathize. And through all those things and doing them genuinely, it is inevitably funny.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes we've done shows that aren't funny, but they're incredible.
Yeah.
The audience isn't laughing because they're so enamored and so drawn in and so in it with us. And that's all I want, you know?
Yeah, you want the audience to feel like they're a part of it and feel like they can go there and just, you know, actually enjoy the show and not be forced to laugh or like walking, like looking around like, why is, like, am I supposed to laugh? What am I supposed to do? It's more, you're going there to watch a performance. Maybe you'll laugh.
Yeah. It can be a rare thing, and especially with, and I'm not knocking it, but with streaming and Netflix, it's so easy to like just be on your couch and have a night in. But there's something about the connection that we have with our audience members when they sit down and watch it. It's something you can't describe. A video's not going to do it. You can record it and something loses it. You have to be in there with us. And you feel, and the next day you're going to have so much fun. The next day you're going to tell a coworker, oh, this guy was playing a turkey on stage, and they're going to be like, what are you? And you're like, you just got to see it.
You just got to be there.
But then the show's gone. You know, good or bad, it's gone forever.
And that to me is one of the best things about improv. Like, we're having our grand opening shows on Friday, February 7th, so not this Friday, but next. And
Friday,
we're doing
February 7th.
Hey,
be there.
Well, we're all sold out. Sorry,
sold
folks.
out.
Come out, stand outside.
Hey, stand outside and see if you can get some standing room tickets. No, we're so excited because we're gonna have so many shows now that we have our own space. We can do shows whenever we want. But my point was that
connection with the audience,
being there, show.
Netflix, you can stay home
Netflix,
and chill.
it was after that. It was after that. That plug made me completely lose my train of thought.
Show on the 7th, we got our grand opening.
Oh, well, I'll just say this. I had a friend, a new coworker from my new job, who had heard about Latco. And, you know, and a lot of people, like, we have a great following and a great audience. Our shows at Phil Brady's on a Wednesday night in Baton Rouge, I mean, we would usually have, depending on the night, anywhere between 50 and 100 people at our shows. That's awesome. You know, and that was towards the end of our run at Phil Brady's. That was a consistent thing, and 2 shows a month where we were filling out. I mean, they were, I think, surprised, honestly, of the audience that we had, and, you know, we were able to duplicate the same thing on weekends or whatever. But there's still so many people who've never come to a show, or they've seen us in passing and they haven't ever engaged with us kind of more than someone telling them about it or like seeing it online or something. And a coworker of mine was like, oh yeah, you're part of that comedy thing. And I was like, yeah. And I could tell, and I've told him this to his face, but I could tell he was very like dismissive of like, oh, it's like a little thing. It's like a little thing that you do. And I was like, you better come to a show before we're not at Phil Brady's anymore, because Phil Brady's is allowing, you know, allowed us to have 50 to 100 people. Our new space is a 40-seat theater.
Maxed out.
It's a little intimate space. So, you know, it's like, come while the getting's good. And he came, and I remember as soon as he came to the show, like the next day at work, he was talking, like he was singing a different tune, and we even talked about it and we're good friends now, but we talked about it the other day, and I was like, it's so funny because it was like, I saw the transformation where you understood what we were doing because you came and you were in that space with the energy and the people and just how engaged people are and how much people love it. I mean, people just love it, and we love to do it for them. We love to give them that because, you know, it's also like a very rare thing to be able to have a night out where it's not just about drinking and eating. You know, the great thing about our shows is that anybody can come, grab a glass of water, grab a club soda, and just get a laugh. You know, it's not, you don't need to do much more than that. And in our new space, it's all ages too. So we'll be able to let younger people in. It is mostly adult shows and adult content, so, you know, maybe don't bring your 12-year-old in, but like an 18-year-old can come in, you know, whereas at Phil Brady's, it was 21 and over, so.
I never heard that coworker story. That's really nice.
You know who it was.
Do it?
Bradley.
Oh, it's Bradley. I didn't know it was. And he's helped us with so much.
He's been great.
He's been incredible.
But it's funny because you don't know, it's like anything. You don't know till you know.
And that's the thing, too, is for good reason. A lot of times people hear about us opening improv, and I've heard people say, oh, improv sucks. Improv's so bad.
The Reddit threads are brutal.
They're rough. But
I think everything on Reddit is rough.
It is.
Unless
He's
you're
on there. He tells me about it.
And can I be honest with you? I was shocked because
absolutely.
I posted both those shows sold out in 10 hours, which we were shocked.
So it was almost 100 tickets in 10 hours.
That's
crazy
fast.
It's insanely fast. But I post some on Reddit, and we post stuff, just try to get what small feelers we have out, get them out there. And there was a few people that were a little rough. The amount of people that came, I don't know if I told you that, to the rescue, they were so sweet. They were like, it's just on Baton Rouge subreddit, but they were like, oh, we really, just loving it, and which is crazy because that's what the community we build does anyway.
Yeah.
I find, I don't know what law of attraction it is, but it only attracts good people, whatever that means to you. And then I find that the people that aren't as great are a little bit repelled.
Right.
And something, I don't know what it is.
Well, and they're able to, because the only time you hear about the people being repelled is not going to come to your face and say, hey, your show's terrible.
Sure.
They're going to post it on Reddit, they're going to post it on any of your social medias, and so they're able to hide behind that mask of the screen, and so you never have to deal with them because they're never going to buy a ticket.
Well, here's the thing.
Unless somebody did, then I'll be totally shocked.
Here's the thing. That guy that said, one of them said 99.99% of improv sucks, I sent him a message. And I was like, look, I agree with you 100%, because there's a lot of bad improv out there. There just is.
99.99%, you agree?
I agree with him fully. I'm a much bigger snob than Betty is.
Right, pessimist, optimist.
Yeah, exactly.
We've established it.
All improv is valid.
It's valid, that's true. She's helping me a lot. I'm working on it. But anyway, I told him about this is not passive aggressive in any way. If you want to come to a show, you can give me a fake name if you want. I'm going to get you in for free. I just want you to see what we do. Because I genuinely think if someone has an opinion about improv right now or a preconceived notion, come to one of our shows, and I think we'll give you something to kind of talk about or change your mind a little bit.
Kill them with kindness.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to pay that $5 though.
Yeah, you got to.
Oh, jeez. Okay. And I think that's with a lot of, not even just comedy in general, but with a lot of new things, especially in Baton Rouge. We like our patterns. We like our routines.
Yep.
But at the same time, we always complain that we're in a pattern, we're in a routine,
and
there's nothing to do in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the biggest complaint outside of the roads and traffic, is there's nothing to do in Baton Rouge. And it's like, well, there is, you just don't want to go out and do it.
But let me give you a positive spin on that. I'm working on it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Pessimist coming in with positivity.
Trying to become more optimistic in 2020.
2020 vision.
Yeah. So whenever the situation at home got better, I was ready to take off again. I was ready to leave.
Right.
And I was going to. And Michael Moss, again, our third, sat me down and he said, everyone in Baton Rouge that starts doing something cool goes somewhere else to do it.
That's 100%.
You paint, you're a poet, you're an artist, you're a musician. You go do that somewhere else when you can do it here. If enough cool people stay here, Baton Rouge is going to be the cool place. And I'm really glad he told me that, because even though we worked our behinds off, this is much more fulfilling and cool. And I'm not a very prideful person, but I'm so dang proud of what we've accomplished. And I think there's a wave of people getting out of their shell and breaking those little habits and patterns and getting out of their own comfort zones. I think that's been proven by our audiences and by the amount of people that have attended our classes.
For sure.
And it only grows. So, anybody that's sticking around, anybody listening to this thinking about moving somewhere else, do it if you'd like. But if you're here doing something cool, this is going to be the cool place, and the wave's happening, and it's already started.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then that's the intentions behind this podcast as a whole, is to find those cool things, those people doing those great things in the community, and say, hey, let's talk about it.
Right on.
Let's, because a lot of people have talked like, oh yeah, if I could just have somewhere to talk and tell people about what I'm doing, it'd be great. I'm like, okay, so you want to do this, but you just can't. I'm like, all right, so I'll be that middle ground, that medium, and say, hey, let's talk about it, bring you on, and let's get it out there to as many people as we can, and show Baton Rouge is awesome.
Yeah.
Baton Rouge has a lot to offer. The people here in Baton Rouge want to offer something. They don't want to do it alone.
They don't want to do it alone. Yeah, and again, TC and I both left, and when I left Baton Rouge, I had no intention of coming back. I was one of those people who left kind of thinking that there wasn't anything here for me. I went to LSU, graduated, and immediately, I immediately started working at Pluckers. I had to figure some things out. But as soon as my dad said, it sounds like you're on the manager track, I quit, and then I was like, I got to figure something else out. So I worked there for like 6 months, but then I got an AmeriCorps position in Houston, and I moved to Houston, which, it was imperative for me. And I always say, not just stay in Baton Rouge, but like leave, but come back. And come back with the things that you've learned. And TC and I are both people who went and found something we really loved and ended up coming back. And like, again, the gardener analogy fits perfectly. We like went and learned how to tend a garden, and then we came and did it at home instead of doing it out there. But I was out in Houston, and it's a wonderful place, and I visit frequently. All of like my great friends are out there. So when it came time to decide to come back to Baton Rouge, my husband and I were then dating, and we were long distance, and it was such a struggle for me to make that choice to come back. But I've never been happier with the decision I've ever made in my life. I'm with an awesome guy. He's the best. He is the best, truly, and he is truly the husband of Latco. Yeah. He's married to all of us. And I here am able to make such a bigger impact. Like in Houston, I'm like, I'm a performer. I would be a performer, a dime a dozen performer, and not necessarily be able to make waves the way we have in Baton Rouge. But also, again, just that cultivation of, like, we did an interview with 225 the other day, and genuinely, like, started tearing up because I grew up around, like, a couple blocks up from where our location is. Okay. Like, I grew up on Westmoreland and Wilshire, like, right by where the Blockbuster used to be, and, like, the Walgreens and Rite Aid, and that whole thing. So I grew up there, and in Mid-City, before people bought in Mid-City, my parents bought in Mid-City, and people were like, you're cuckoo bananas, Lulu in the head, what is wrong with you people? But, at the time, that's what they could afford, and they got a great house with a pool. Like, I grew up with a pool in Mid-City, but it's just like, everyone was like, that's crazy, and now everybody wants to live in Mid-City. Yeah. But that's besides the point. But I spent like my summers like walking down to Honeymoon Bungalow, which is now Elsie's Plate and Pies. It was a vintage kind of houseware store, and going to like Time Warp and all that stuff. And then to be in my space now, thinking about myself when I was 14 or 15 and kind of aimless and like didn't know what my thing was, because like TC, it's like I played some instruments. I wasn't very good. I was okay. I wasn't like a virtuoso or anything. I didn't really do anything. I wasn't a kid with activities. So to be able to like find this place and like open it in my neighborhood where I grew up, and thinking about another girl that age in the neighborhood who might just be walking around one day and see comedy and think, oh, that's a thing that I could do. Like when that girl walks through the door, I will die. I'll fully die when that 15-year-old girl walks through the door, and I know she will. I know I'll see her, and that's what I wish I had when I was that age. And so it's just like so full circle and so special to like be the adult version of myself, offering that to like younger versions of us. That's really nice.
Yeah. And so on that note of how you were that age and there was nothing around, do you think that the reason it's happening so much now and that Baton Rouge is, Mid-City is starting to become so vibrant, is that because the people at that age are now old enough to do something about it?
Absolutely.
You think there could be a correlation between that of, now all the 30 or 40-year-old people who grew up saying, I wish I had this, wish I had that, are now like, what, let's do something about it.
Yeah.
Let's actually make that happen.
Yeah, I think Baton Rouge is really activated right now. Like, I just think that there's so much good stuff. But also, what I think is really different now than times in the past, because there's been peaks, there's been like little like spark moments of Baton Rouge feeling like it's coming together. But I think what's happening now more than ever before is a very improv thing, which is that we're all collaborating. We're all actually having conversations with each other, finding ways to support each other. We were at the comedians debate last night. Right. You were there. I was there. Omar and the guys who run No Show. Franz, who's like a super huge supporter of everything in the community. Kenny, who is, prestige of our community, like Forbes, like, 30 under 30 and the whole thing, but we're all in conversation together. It's not siloed. It's not like, oh, I'm a lawyer and I support these 3 things. Like, it's like there's crossover in amongst just like professionals in general and the industry in general. People are interested in like connecting with us as much as we are with them. You're doing these types of things, and I just feel like the conversation is way more open than it's ever been before, to actually just be like, oh, how can we work together? Because everyone in our little neighborhood now, like, we've been talking to BJ at Radio Bar about how we can collaborate since we're a BYOB venue. Like, how can we make sure, like, we're sending people their way, they're sending people our way, help our people get some drink specials, and then we send them there after the official after party's there. Those types of things where it's a really, I hate to say it, but synergistic, way of operating business. And I just feel like it's because it's people our age, and God bless me for saying that, but I do think millennials get a bad rap, but I think we're moving and shaking in a really impactful way.
Yeah. We'll go do shows in New Orleans sometimes, and people will come up to it. They've come up to me after and be like, why are y'all in Baton Rouge? They'd be like, don't sleep on us.
Hey, don't sleep on Baton Rouge. There's no better feeling than going to New Orleans and driving home and coming to Baton Rouge and going to sleep. I really, truly believe sometimes that place makes me feel cuckoo.
Yeah.
And, like, I just love going to spend a nice day or, like, a nice dinner, drinks in New Orleans, and then just driving my little tush home to get in my bed in quiet Baton Rouge. It's a great, I love it here. It's a wonderful community.
Yeah, I mean, the comparison between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, even though we're only an hour away, it's, like, so different.
Yeah.
And so with that, how is the comedy community in New Orleans, how have they been with y'all doing something in Baton Rouge? Like, have they been, like, supportive, like, oh, yeah, we'll come out to a show, or let's collaborate and let's do something together? What does that scene look like within the different cities?
Yeah, I don't know where to me, it feels a little bit like a chicken and egg situation, because we are so open to everyone, and it's nice being a little hub in between, because Lafayette has an improv scene too that's been thriving for a long time. New Orleans has an improv scene, and we're pretty open to reaching out and being like, come do shows, teach workshops, bring it all in. We're not exclusive in any way. And we found, like I said, chicken and egg, I felt the exact same way from their end, right? So, that's like, awesome. They'll reach out and be like, come do a show, come do this. Yeah. We've got this going on. Do you want to come help, And it seems like that, at least in from a comedy standpoint, a river that flows both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, even our grand opening show, so kind of, I always say our sister improv theater in New Orleans is called Two Friends Improv Theater, and it's John Butts and Casey Haig, and they're a duo who runs it. And I don't know how much you know just about the kind of comedy scene in New Orleans over the last couple years, but it's been a really tumultuous time for a lot of different reasons. And like any community, the comedy community can fall prey to just kind of like, leadership that maybe isn't overseeing things the way it should. Comedy, especially stand-up, has historically been a boys' club. I used to do stand-up in Houston, and I quit. My therapist was like, why are you torturing yourself? You literally come here, like, feeling, like, really bad, because it's so hard to make your way as a woman in stand-up, in kind of in these communities or whatever. And so there's just been a lot of issues. So a lot of people have had to kind of break off and essentially do what we're doing in Baton Rouge, which is to kind of build from the ground up. Like, there used to be one big unit of comedy, but it broke apart because of a lot of kind of big allegations and things that happened. So it was really divisive. So, like, Two Friends was a group that sprung up out of that. Like, they still wanted to be able to do improv, do classes, host shows, and so they started from the ground up. So in a lot of ways, it's funny because, like, the way the New Orleans community has kind of been a little bit shaken and dismantled by what's happened, I think has allowed for a lot more collaboration, because everybody's kind of where we are now. Like, everyone's kind of like, well, what do we do now? And so everybody's talking. Like, I called one of my old sketch teachers. I took a sketch writing class in New Orleans. Called her this week, and I was like, hey, if you ever want to come to Baton Rouge, and she's from Baton Rouge, I was like, if you ever want to come back home and teach a sketch writing class or a workshop, come on down. And she was like, oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely, I would love to do that.
She's so great.
And same with Lafayette and Silverbacks. Like, they come and perform with us, we go perform with them. Casey, Two Friends, is going to be our opener for our grand opening show. It's all really collaborative, like across the region, really, because even my teachers from Houston and the owners of my improv theater that I started at in Houston, they came this summer, did a workshop, did a show. So we have people who might come down from Chicago.
I have lots of, yeah.
It's a network that's like
awesome.
starting to form, which is really exciting.
And that's another thing outside of, in a very selfless way, I'm so proud and excited about like getting, because a lot of theaters kind of sometimes are born from a place of, I always hear this, exclusivity, right? So it's like, oh, TC was shunned from a theater, I'm going to go open my own theater, right? And then you carry that toxicity over with you. We don't have that. You know, we were born of like just wanting to do it and wanting to see it. So like a lot of theaters might be like, you only play here, you only study here, that's it.
Really?
A lot. I mean, especially Chicago. In Chicago, there's a lot more theaters, and I think it's better now. But it used to be very toxic. Of like, you only played here at Second City, you're only at IO, you're only here.
Why is
very
that?
cliquey? I think it's because, in a way, it's a little bit of like a. What's the right way to put it? It's there are more, so there's more competition, right?
Right.
And also, I think it's again fear. So sometimes, like it's like, oh, this other theater's better than us,
Right.
and so a way to react to that is by pushing it away. Whereas what we do is if we hope they're better than us, and we take it all.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh my gosh, they did this move. Did you see that move they did? Let's try it. You know, and then we're doing it, and we're like, that was so good. And that's just our way of reacting to things, you know.
Right.
So we just react. It's the same feeling wherever this is. It's just how you choose to react to it, and we just react to it differently than some places do.
Yeah. And you know, and even to the point of the education piece as well. You know, a lot of theaters, their bread and butter is classes and teaching. So you'd think it's counterintuitive to send someone else to classes somewhere else to not have their money, you know, just looking at from the business angle. But to me, that doesn't make any sense, because you're going to ostracize more people by making them feel like even if you don't have the thing that they want, or they can't do it with you for some reason, that they don't have any other options. That relationship isn't going to be a relationship with longevity. And I have a good example of that is, you know, one of the girls who we actually, she did we did a soccer, LSU women's soccer team building session with like, a lot of girls who were not wanting to be with us. But by the end, they did want to be with us. Team building can be that way. But one of the girls, and usually we find that there's one person in any group where you can just tell they got it.
That's their thing.
Right.
Like they want to be a part of this. And she came and she started taking classes with us, but then this past summer she had to go back to Houston. She's at college at LSU, had to go back to Houston, so her parents are, and so she wasn't going to be able to take the next session, you know, with us. And I looked her dead in the eye and said, I'm going to be mad with you if you don't go to Station Theater in Houston and go meet Roger. I'm going to send them an email now, tell them you're coming their way. Try to take an intro class if you can. Like, you're going to love it. It's going to be amazing. You're going to get to learn from the people I learned from. Like, so fun. She went, loved it, came back even more excited, and she's in an ensemble class now. You know, so instead of like discouraging and being like, oh, well, you just have to go 3 months without it, and then maybe she's not going to be into it after 3 months, like, go learn more from different people, and then come back to us and tell us what you learned.
100%.
We want to know.
It's that open mindset that y'all said y'all have, and that, you know, the whole scene in Baton Rouge is trying to have, is that open collaboration. Like, oh, you want to go to somebody in Lafayette, New Orleans, that's fine. Go there. If you want to stay there, fine.
Yeah.
And then when you want to come back, bring what you've learned.
Yeah.
You know, it's being open to learning new ideas, to learning new ways, new methods of doing things. Whereas some people are like, nah, I like the way we do it here.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
we've cultivated this, we've branded this as how we do things. Don't bring in that other outside nonsense.
Right.
Whereas y'all are like, we don't know what we're doing. It's improv.
Hey,
we make it up as we go.
You nailed it. That's exactly it. It's like if we suddenly decide we're the keepers of the improv information in Baton Rouge, then that's when we need to not do this anymore.
Right.
Truly, like that's when we just need to quit, because we don't know anything.
No.
I don't know. Sometimes I look at my husband, I'm like, who's letting us pay bills? Like, who's genuinely letting us, like, be adults right now? Because I'm shocked.
Yeah.
But
it is wild.
It's still fun.
It is very fun. We're having a good time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It sounds like y'all having a great time with everything.
So, we are.
What are the classes structured as? If somebody goes and they purchase a set of classes, what are they going to get?
So our class structure right now, I'm really excited because we finally have a real more formalized kind of way somebody can move through classes. So we have a 4-level class system. So when you sign up for your first class, it's going to be an intro class. Our classes are all 6 weeks. In other markets, it's usually 8-week classes, but we've started doing 6-week, and we just feel like in Baton Rouge, we still have to be mindful that, like, there's a very specific way people schedule their lives for the year, and there's just certain things we are not going to be able to avoid. Football season, festival season, it's very hot in the summer, weddings between everything, you know, and so we have to be mindful of that, and the 6 weeks feels like a commitment that people feel really good to make. So they do a 6-week series. At the end of that 6 weeks, they get to do a recital, so they get to perform what they learned in front of their friends and family, which is really fun. And then they move through, and so then, you know, if they want to, go to level 2. If they want to do level 3, go there. And then finally level 4. And then after you complete level 4, you essentially are free to continue if your class stays together. So a lot of times you do have attrition. So, like, for example, our intro class right now is 13 students. All 13 of those students probably aren't going to complete level 4.
It happens.
Let's just say it happens. It's a normal thing. I did in Houston. My series was five levels, you know, and I think there were 5 of us that had started together that ended together, you know. But over the time, we saw new people, you know, kind of in and out, whatever. So after that, you're free to continue performing as a team together. We offer coaching for that, but we also have house troops that we perform with, and we have open auditions for those. So at any point in your education, or even if you've never taken a class, you're able to audition for our house troops. And that was something kind of newer we added this past year, so that you can kind of just get stage time and stuff. But that's basically it. So our level 1s that are in level 1 now will take their level 4 classes by October, November, and graduate by the end of the year. So it's essentially like a full year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I will say this for anyone watching or listening.
It's just 2 people.
Perfect. For you, both of you.
Hey, for both of you.
My mom and my dad. My wife's not even watching.
Oh,
that's great.
No.
And that's a good thing, too, because you can... The scariest thing is pushing the button to do it.
Yeah.
Like pushing
100%.
get a class, you know? And the most frustrating thing for us is not the people that don't do it. It's the people that you know want to do it so bad.
Yeah.
Because we need audiences, too. Some people, it's just not for them, and that's fine,
Yeah.
you know? But then there are some people that come to all our shows and want to talk about it, and you can see it in their eyes that they want to do it so bad.
Yeah.
And they're just too scared to push that button.
Yeah.
And as soon as you push it, it's only good things will happen, I promise you. And that,
I don't have anybody who's ever told me, at least to my face, that they were good at it. So.
Well, they're all
check
so
Reddit. They might be talking.
Hey, listen. I stay off the threads.
Yes, and I find that it's not even with comedy, or it's in business or anything in general. You know, like we said at the beginning of this thing, that fear to buy the building. It's when people, they want to do something different. They want to get out there and do something, but then as soon as they get so close to do it, they say no, I can't do it.
Yeah,
and
no, exactly.
some reason comes up. It could be, you know what, the sun didn't come up right. It was a cloudy day. Just not going to do it. But then those people that do want to pull the trigger and do want to go through it, that's awesome that they have a place to do it now. And that with anything, it's once you get into it, people, it's so much better than not doing it.
The man ain't lying.
No,
because
truly.
you just, as soon as you start doing it, you just become a happier person.
Yeah.
People will tell us if you want to do something, regardless of whatever it is. A second you start doing it, it's going to be stressful and hectic throughout the entire time.
Yeah.
But you're going to be so much happier because you're doing what you love and what you wanted to do. And no one's stopping you.
Well, right. And also it's like Elizabeth Gilbert wrote a book called Big Magic. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's it's about being a creative, right? And it's about the process of being a creative, but it also talks about like the pragmatic aspects of being a creative person, and how, oftentimes we have these ideas that we really want to do. There's a lot of great ideas. Like the whole book is amazing, I think, but but fear is always going to be a part of the process when you're doing big things, when you're making big moves. Like, fear is a natural part of the process, because I think sometimes people want to suppress fear and they want to be like, well, I just need to get over it. But that's not the way it works. And in the book, she describes it as essentially you have to acknowledge the fear, and then you have to buckle it into the passenger seat and just be like real cute and be like, took, and know that it's going to be there for the ride, but it's not driving the car. You are. You get to make the choices. The fear is going to be there. And fear also, I'm like passionate about this book, obviously. Fear is also a really useful tool for us. I think sometimes people don't realize that fear is actually useful. It's our body, and it's a physical manifestation of like, pause, take a beat. It's not, oh no, I'm scared, I can't do this, no, and then running away. It's, I'm scared, I've got to actually breathe, I've got to process, I've got to think about why am I scared? Like if you're at the top of a water slide, it's like, why am I scared? Because this thing, like I can't strap into this thing's going at a, the plunge at Blue Bayou, it's like this thing is at an insane angle that I can't quite even wrap my brain around. And that's why I'm scared. I'm scared that I could die. And then you have to actually say, well, probably not. The odds of that are probably not. And you have to actually like backpedal and think about it. And that's what we did when we were outside of the space. We were all scared. And honestly, I'm so glad that we listened to that fear, because that fear gave us a couple days to not feel so anxious and stressed, and like we were trying to grind and push towards something that maybe wasn't meant for us. It gave us space. I feel like we all felt relieved that we said, listen, we're not going to do it. But the beautiful thing was that, we were all in tune enough, and I was in tune enough to know the moment that it felt so right was the moment of relief from the fear, because I didn't let fear say it's never happening, we got to scrap the whole thing. I just said, I let fear give me a break for a second to breathe, to be like, this is a lot, to then be open to the next thing, which was the universe saying, thumbs up, all systems go. And at that point, I just, even with like fundraising, because we've done some fundraising for the space, I created a fundraising budget, I presented it to them. I think they both thought I was cuckoo lulu when I told them, I was like, we're gonna raise $15,000 for this space, and we've already raised almost 10 in the course of like a month and a half, and it wasn't pulling teeth. And I've fundraised for a lot of things that is pulling teeth. Like, you're tracking people down, you are coming to their place of work, and this wasn't that. These were like no-brainer asks. People were like, duh, I'll buy a chair for $250, like, oh yeah, I'll donate $25 for a koozie. And they don't want the stuff, they want to buy into what we're doing.
Improv theater.
Yeah, they want an improv theater.
They want the same thing you want, and they want to feel like they're a part of bringing it in.
Yeah.
Because people with the chairs, people with the koozies, like, oh, how'd you get that? Oh, I've donated to help them go out.
Exactly.
With the chair, oh yeah, that's my chair over there.
Exactly.
I helped them make this happen, and then they get a sense of pride in doing something great for the city.
Absolutely.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
So your shows, you've got your first one coming up February 7th.
Yeah.
What can people, well, it's sold out, but for those that want to go to the next one, maybe.
Yeah. February 12th.
February 12th. Is that one sold out too?
No, we don't have tickets on sale yet, and I'm not going to put them on sale. I'm going to give everyone a little pausecito so that we can sell those to maybe some new people.
Right.
But all our ticket sales, and we're trying to get the word out about this, will be online as well.
Okay.
So,
where at?
latcocomedy.com.
Okay, we're going to link that in the show notes for people watching and listening. So if you find the podcast, you're going to find every single link in there.
And that's where we kind of funnel everything to that. That's where information on classes, shows, donations, if you'd like to contribute, it's all on that site. So
tickets pre-purchase online February 12th. They're not on sale yet, and I will let you know when they are.
Perfect.
Because I want you to, you know what? You're getting in for free, baby. You and your wife.
He gets it for free.
Oh my! Wow.
Yeah.
And that's what's great. That area, you make a date night out of it.
Ooh, a
I
date
know.
night out of it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Go
We're
to
in.
Elsie's. Go grab you a drink at radio. Come to the show, and then you can throw some axes.
That's perfect. What time?
Shows at 8.
Perfect. We'll be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool, man.
So what can we expect at the show? Now that we're coming, we're going to be front center.
Front row.
Be able to see everything.
Yeah.
What are we going to see?
Well, that's what's great about improv is we have no idea.
Well, like, what's the format? Is there
Sure.
a structure, a format? I mean, are we going to sit down and one guy's going to come up and talk, or are we going to have a group of people? Like, what is the format?
Yeah, sure. So it depends on what show you come and see. We have different house teams that play in different times, and sometimes we do different forms.
Okay.
Betty and I are on a team called Dirty Karma.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And what we do in those shows is we find what we call a monologist. A person from the community will come, and they will tell a story about anything they want from their lives, and then we improvise off that story. That's a 1 hour show. The thing that is on the, you said the 12th? Is that one?
The 12th, I think, is Dirty Karma.
Oh, is that Dirty Karma? Okay, so that's what you can see that day.
Perfect.
Right.
I'm excited now.
Yeah.
But we also have other teams and shows. Bang Bang's another team that we have, and they literally just come ask for a one-word suggestion, and then they do a 20-minute show.
Oh wow.
And no structure, no that it just kind of
you just do it.
unfolds,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the main tenets of long-form improv. Is it just you? So literally, we don't know what's going to happen, and literally, I've been doing improv for over 10 years now, and I've never done the same. You never do the same show twice, because me being in there, Betty being there, you being there. Every time it's something different. You can come. Some people do. Some people come see us every week, and we've never done the same show twice ever.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and the shows, like I said, they're at 8, so they usually go from about 8 to 9, a little after, if we run a little bit long, but usually consists, with Dirty Karma, it's not 2 halves, it's the same troupe performing the whole time, but the monologist will come up 2 separate times and kind of tell 2 separate stories. So they'll come up, we'll introduce them, they'll come up, do their kind of 2 to 3 minute story. We'll do improv for about 15 to 20 minutes based on that story. And then when we feel like we need a little extra fuel, they'll come up and do another 2 to 3 minute story. But then with our other shows, it's usually a 2-half scenario. We have a host, they're hosting, bring up that first team, they do about 20 minutes, do a little 5-minute intermission, run over to Radio Bar, grab your drink, pop your other beer that you brought, BYOB, and then we have that second half of the show. So Bang Bang would usually be the headliner, and then we'd have an opener for them. So kind of that format. But we're also open, to doing other structures and forms that we're looking at. Variety shows and movie nights and karaoke nights and stand-up shows and all that kind of stuff. And the beauty of the space is now we can really explore. I think we've been kind of constrained by not having our own space because everyone has a million other things going on all the time that Phil Brady's is not going to give up its blues jam to let us come do improv. So now it's really up to us, and not just us but members of the community, our community, to submit shows. And we already have a form on our website if people are interested in coming out and performing with us from Baton Rouge but also from all over, to submit to open for us or to submit new show ideas. And we're really interested in putting up new voices and just people who are interested in doing it.
Our log line, if you look at the website, is Baton Rouge's home for long form improv and experimental theater. And that experimental theater is a very non-specific word, right? It's broad for a reason. It's because we don't want to limit the amount of, there might be a young person out there that has a kazoo and a unicycle and wants to do their folk thing, or whatever it is, they're welcome to, right? So it's anything out there. If someone's got a one act play, they want to do a solo show, something like that. We don't want to limit anyone's creative space.
If you wanted to do a live podcast recording with an audience.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Wouldn't that be tight?
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be really cool.
All right, now we got to do something like that.
There you go.
100%.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah. So, but it's that kind of stuff, right? It's just a place to do it all. A place to for all your wildest dreams to come true, I think. And mine have already come true. We've already gotten way past my wildest dreams.
Mine too. I think we're both living our best lives.
Yeah,
it's
true.
So now you got to add to that.
I know.
You gotta find the next
That's
level.
the thing. Well, and somebody was asking me what the next thing was, but I think what we've always done really successfully is just been in the moment that we are,
present,
and it's I'm just stoked for Friday. I'm so pumped to see everybody in that space and let that be real for a while, and then I'll be up to scheming again.
Yeah. And
Right. So with this, y'all, it's all brand new. We're starting to kind of wind down in the show. What are some things that y'all have learned, TC and Betty, what's 2 things that y'all have each learned throughout this process of getting the space and growing it for the last 4 years?
I think for me, it's been a matter of whether it's intentional or not, practicing what I preach. because I literally do feel like a preacher sometimes when it comes to talking about improv and how one's life can benefit from it, not just on a show performer level, you know. And then especially opening the theater, I'm learning, oh my gosh, I have to trust my scene partner and or business partner. I have to relinquish control, take control in certain places, the give and take. That's all stuff of technical dynamic things that we practice in improv that I've brought into this relationship of managing and running a theater. The biggest thing I wouldn't say I've learned, but another observation that I've made that was unintentional, and Betty touched on it a little while ago, is looking across the room at either our students, our performers, or our audience, and seeing two people from entirely different walks of life having a conversation. And that it makes my heart want to explode, you know, because we're bringing people together in a world where you don't necessarily feel too supported all the time, or it can be a little bit dog eat dog. To have a space that is literally only there to support and spread love and make people feel good. I mean, I can't ask for anything more than that.
Absolutely.
True. I mean, I feel like I'm a woman on a mission to learn so much. Sometimes it feels exhausting, the amount of things I feel like I've learned about myself and all the things I know that I have yet to learn about myself. But for sure, the process of the last 4 years just, I think really understanding that when you prioritize understanding who you are and really embracing who your true self is, and again through improv, that's how I came to this place. My famous claim to fame improv story is that and this isn't even something I'm ashamed to say. I was in an abusive relationship when I was in my mid-20s with a guy who was much older than me and really weird kind of man, and living in Houston and just kind of like spiraling a little bit, not understanding, because I was such a caretaker and I didn't like I think I always thought like, oh, I'm the good one and he's the bad one, but what I didn't see was that like I was just as much of the problem as he was. Like I let him into my life, and like what were the things in me that allowed him in, and as soon as I finally had like a little like come to Jesus, where it was like a moment in my mind, it just like something flipped, and I was just like, oh, like I see what I'm doing here and I don't want to be here anymore. Got out of the relationship, and I signed up for an improv class like a week later.
Oh, wow.
and therapy simultaneously.
And not related.
But they ended up being real related. But I started doing both simultaneously, and I've done both simultaneously since then, since I was 24 and 25 maybe. And that progression of like who I was at that age and who I am now, it's like I'm so much closer to who I am and who I'm meant to be, the true me, that like the last 4 years have only just illuminated that more, made me more confident in who I am. And I think when you are your true self, then your true path is illuminated for you. And I believe that this is like my path to bring this to Baton Rouge with the people that I'm doing it with. Like there's no other place in the world that I'm meant to be right now. Like I truly believe that. So I think that I've learned that personally about myself. But then also just that like when you're with the right people, when you can see the right people and like bring the right people together, like you can't be stopped.
Right.
Like, you know, there's power in numbers, especially like when it's just the right people in the room, you know, and I think that that's like a pretty businessy thought process. It's like having, you know, a board is trying to have the right people in the room. But when I say the right people in the room, I just mean energetically. Like I don't mean like, because some of our most awesome community members aren't people who've been able to buy a chair, but they're people who just show up. They're people who are willing to paint a wall. They're people who tell everybody about us, you know. And I think finding the value in, you know, in everybody, no matter what their means are, as long as they're bringing positive vibes like to the situation, like to me it's like that's the most important thing. Like if you have a positive energy and a positive outlook, like, you're gonna enrich anybody around you in your community. And I feel like we're just like collecting. It's like I have like millions of adorable keychains of people who are just like, I'm collecting them, all of these amazing spirits in Baton Rouge who I think have all found their place in LATCO. And we've had people tell us that a lot, like that they've kind of felt aimless in Baton Rouge until they found us, because they've actually found a community that they fit into, you know, and there's, again, nothing better than that for me.
Truly,
to be like a weirdo collector.
That's incredible to understand that people can bring value regardless of the means, just through a positive vibe, positive energy. They walk in the room and be like, we want that person here to help us on this journey. So with that, what are some 2 things that y'all have, you know, you would kind of change along the way if you had the option to go back and change it?
But that's probably a tough question, only because we're both, well, I shouldn't speak for you, but I think we're both such true believers on everything happens for a reason and everything's going to work out. Literally, Michael Moss and I in particular are we're very hard-headed and very impatient. And so if it weren't for Betty, we would have had a theater space 3 years ago, and it would have not done well. Right. At all. We didn't have anything. And Betty came along and she said, let's focus not only just on growth, but sustainable growth. That's something she says to us a lot. And thankfully she did, you know. And at the time, it was tough for me because I'm so impatient and I want to get in there and like, let's do it all, you know. No, it doesn't. So I know it's kind of a cop-out on your question, but I have to think about it because genuinely everything is so perfect. And I genuinely am not I wouldn't change anything for the world.
And I think the answer to the question was, if Betty hadn't been in there, you know, what would you change? Well, it's like, well, we would have definitely made sure Betty was there, because if she hadn't been there, the whole different outcome would have happened.
Right.
And so even recognizing, oh no, that one factor that happened, that had to happen.
Oh, well, in that case, there's a snowball effect of like so many things, of like me moving back, Michael Moss convincing me not to leave, Betty coming along, you know, all the people that have interchanged and interworked. There are people that I've met, and I remember the first time we met them, Betty included. I remember the first time I met these people, and I had no idea in that moment what a huge impact they would have in my life. Yeah. I had no idea. Right. And now looking back, it's like, wow, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think, you know, especially for TC and the way he ended up back in Baton Rouge. And this is, I think for some people, a controversial thought process. Again, the idea that, like, I always say, like, all is as it should be, you know? Because it's hard for people to embrace that when really bad things happen. But then sometimes you do have to kind of look at the bigger chain of events, and something really difficult happened for TC, and that's what brought him here. But, again, everything's about perspective too, and so it's like you can like, I genuinely every day am grateful for that man that I dated. He emailed me out of nowhere like a week ago after 5 years, like, it's too late, baby, she married. But you know, he emailed me out of nowhere, and it really, you know, while we're in the midst of building out this improv theater, and I'm in a healthy marriage with adorable pets and like amazing friendships, great relationships with my family that I'm constantly like working on and evolving, and you know, part of me really just wanted to hit him back with an email and say thank you, like your intervention in my life at that time allowed me to hit a rock bottom of like what I was doing to attract the kind of chaos that I was attracting into my life, and I don't have that life anymore. I have literally the life of my dreams, where I am opening an improv theater in my hometown. Like, thank you. But then my husband was like, he probably just still wants to find out if you're single. So I was like, okay, I want to know.
I would have emailed him and been like, said everything exactly how you said, just so he can realize what he did and how it impacted you. Yeah. But be like, you know what, even though you did all that to me, thank you, because I'm so much better because of what you did.
You know, and that was my initial instinct. And I talked to my husband, I talked to my friends, I talked to my therapist famously about it. And, you know, but at the end of the day, I was able to heal, because it was also the first time he ever said that he was even bad to me. Like, the first time in the whole time. You know, but at the end of the day, I had to admit to my, it is a little bit of like an FU kind of a vibe.
Right.
And it's like, I'm doing amazing, and I can send him all the light and love in the world and hope that he learned from it too. But not everyone's going to shift their perspective that way.
Right.
Like, not everyone's able to say, man, thank you. You were nuts, and I appreciate it. That's not everybody, but luckily that's the way I've decided to view the world. And as far as changing things, yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I think that there's always these little moments of things, these little things that you do or these little things that you say. I mean, I think that there's been times where I would change maybe being more honest with somebody or more straightforward with somebody. I mean, because, let's be honest, everything isn't positive vibes and everybody isn't positive vibes. And we've had some people kind of come through and issues arise and stuff. And I think, treading lightly is important, but sometimes it's important to be really direct. And I think that there was a couple moments where I wished I would have been more direct, because our community is meant to be a safe space, and sometimes people don't realize that, or they don't know how to guard their energy to be appropriate sometimes. And sometimes there's like things like that where I wish I would have been like, no, that was just inappropriate.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't do those things. And then, I don't know, probably our last shirt order colors aren't that popular, so maybe I would have just changed those.
Yeah.
But
Oh my.
yeah.
If that's the worst we're doing.
If that's the worst we're doing, it's like, somebody buy these green shirts. I thought they were cute.
Yeah.
Wait, what color green?
We have like emerald green. We have purple.
Okay.
I have like LSU vibes. I feel like when football season comes, people will be buying those. But our last color we chose was like, there was kind of a clay red and like a mustard yellow. People went crazy for those colors, and we just thought, oh, we'll like bring a new set of colors. And our shirts are like a really nice quality shirt and just a color and then a white print of our logo really big on the front. And I just thought, oh, mix it up, give them a different color. But apparently people aren't loving it. Hey, comment, subscribe if you want to tell us about why you don't like green.
Yes, please let them know what's wrong with
Let
green.
us know what's wrong with emerald green. Yeah.
Okay, so the final question is, what can I and the people watching and listening, the two of them, what can we do to help y'all achieve your goal?
Yeah, I think one big thing is spread the word and talk about it. I mean, that's such a small thing. A lot of times people ask that question, and I genuinely mean that. I think I feel like sometimes people think I'm just like brushing them aside, but I genuinely, the fact that we have been doing this for 4 years and there's still people that don't know about us in Baton Rouge, it's like, spread the word.
Right.
Let people know. That's a big thing. We're also still working on our build out, so we have our donation page open at latcocomedy.com. And I know it's also cliche, but literally the smallest amount helps.
Yeah.
If it's $1, it's $1. Because literally none of it's going into our pockets. It's all going to building the space and creating, building that garden that we keep talking about, in this space for people to really do some cool stuff. And then just come to a show. Come watch a show.
Well, I'll be there for the 12th now.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yeah. They're so much fun.
They're fun, and and that's the thing. It's like the awareness piece, I think, is the biggest piece. And again, as a long-time fundraiser, a lot of times, when we're all asking people to raise money, we always say it's like, even if you're just having the conversation and no one gives you money, you're at least putting the thought in their mind. Mm-hmm. And I worked for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation for a really long time, and all of those conversations, anytime anybody is diagnosed with Crohn's disease or has any sort of GI issues, I don't work there anymore. I'm the person they come to. They ask for doctor recommendations, they ask for this, they ask for that, and so there's just power in planting the seed of that information, because eventually, if it's not now, it might be a year from now, or it might be 2 years from now, where people are like, oh, yeah, there's that comedy place. And then they Google us now, and it's not even what it was then. It's even more like, most of the people we get in our classes and stuff Google improv in Baton Rouge. And up until 4 years ago, they weren't getting any hits.
Yeah.
It's like, and
Did you mean Chicago?
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Did you mean
Chicago?
elsewhere?
But now when you Google improv Baton Rouge, LACCO is the first thing that comes up. But we want it to be, like you said, an iconic name. Like, we want people to see a llama, hear the name LACCO, and be like, oh, those are the comedy people. Those are not just the comedy people, those are the people teaching improv.
Right.
And the educators of comedy and the hub of comedy in Baton Rouge. So it's like, yeah, tell everyone, tell your mom, tell your friend. It's like a really cute date night. It's a fun gift. Like, get someone, a couple tickets to a couple Latco shows, emerald green t-shirt. Two of you guys, please buy the shirts.
You just made me snap.
And on social media, that's also so helpful. It's like, go to the storefront, take a picture in front of the llama, tag.
It's right next to Radio Bar. Again, it wasn't me. Alex Biglane designed it. It is such a great storefront window.
It is. It's
have you
really
seen it yet in person?
I have not been there yet.
Swing by, man.
You'll be there on the 12th.
For sure, I'll be there on the 12th. I might stop by beforehand.
It's impressive. I mean, it looks really cool, and we're really working on creating a space where it's like people can go and be like, this. I can't put a finger on it, but I like being here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just support in any way.
I love it. Well, thank you, Betty and TC.
Dude, thank you for having us, man.
Thank you so much.
This was a blast.
I really had a good time. Thank you.
We love talking. I don't know if you can tell. No, and thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because again, it's like, it's all symbiotic, and people who want to get the word out about all the things are super important, because obviously we're in our little arena, but like, you're just helping spread the word about all the cool things.
100%.
And it's great to see you like show up to all the things,
Yeah, and I'm trying to be even more engaged in all the events and everything, and just giving people a platform to share their story.
Yeah.
And not be like, all right, I need you in, I need you out in like 10, 15 minutes. Like, no, let's sit down, let's have a fire, and let's
How
talk
long have
about
we
what
been here?
you're
It's
doing.
fun, bye.
I feel like it's 10:30 p.m.
Okay.
It's like, whoa, it's midnight. Okay, my phone's dead. Man.
Time flies. Yeah.
I don't know, but I just thank y'all for what y'all are doing.
Man, thank you.
I'm so looking forward to the event on the 12th.
Yeah.
In addition to, I'm looking forward to seeing what y'all do in the community, and just the environment y'all create there. I'm super excited for it.
Thank you so much. We're so excited.
Man. I really appreciate you.
You are very, very welcome. So for everybody watching and listening, you have been listening and watching to the Patty G Show. I am your host, Patty G, signing out with Latco Comedy with Betty and TC over here. They've been a pleasure, and thank you all for listening. And like, share, and subscribe to the show. In addition, go check out Latco. Go check out all their social platforms. They're everywhere. I'm going to link it up so you have no excuse for not being able to find them.
Yes.
I'll make it so easy. Thank you all, and have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.